The moment Jack Sullivan walked into his daughter's classroom, time stood still. Across the room stood Eliza Winters, the same smile, the same captivating eyes that had haunted his dreams for 15 years. But this wasn't the struggling art student he'd fallen for in college. This was Elizabeth Winters, CEO of Horizon Technologies, one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. And somehow, impossibly, she was his daughter's teacher for the night. If you're enjoying this story already, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us how life's most unexpected moments can change everything. Jack Sullivan adjusted his tie for the third time, glancing at his reflection in the hallway mirror. Parent-teacher night shouldn't make a 36-year-old man this nervous, but Lily's education meant everything to him. "Dad, we're going to be late." Lily called from the front door, her 11-year-old impatience evident in every syllable. "Coming, sweetheart." Jack grabbed his keys and wallet, taking one last look at the modest apartment they called home. The walls were covered with Lily's artwork and photos, evidence of their life together since Emma had passed away 4 years ago. The drive to Westfield Middle School was filled with Lily's excited chatter about her science project and how her teacher, Ms. Peterson, had promised to show it off tonight. Jack smiled, grateful for his daughter's enthusiasm despite everything they'd been through. "Ms. Peterson sounds amazing," Jack said, pulling into the school parking lot. "She is. She knows everything about science and business and stuff. She only teaches part-time because she runs some big company, but she says teaching kids is more important than making money." Jack nodded absently, his mind already on the parent-teacher conferences ahead. As a freelance graphic designer working from home, these social events always felt slightly uncomfortable, a reminder of how different their family was from the typical two-parent households. The school hallways buzzed with activity as parents moved from classroom to classroom. Jack followed Lily to room 203, where a small crowd had already gathered outside. "We have to wait our turn," Lily explained, pointing to a sign-up sheet. "But I want to show you my project first." She pulled him into the classroom, weaving through clusters of parents and students. Jack scanned the room, looking for Lily's science display, when his eyes landed on a woman speaking with another parent across the room. His heart stopped. Those eyes. That smile. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was listening intently. Eliza. 15 years melted away in an instant. Suddenly he was 21 again, sitting across from her in that tiny coffee shop near campus, planning their future together. Before everything fell apart. Before she disappeared from his life without explanation. "Dad? Dad, are you okay?" Lily tugged at his sleeve. Jack blinked, forcing himself back to the present. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thought I recognized someone." "That's Ms. Peterson," Lily said brightly. "Come on, I'll introduce you." Before Jack could protest, Lily was dragging him across the room. The woman, Eliza, finished her conversation and turned just as they approached. "Ms. Peterson, this is my dad," Lily announced proudly. Eliza's professional smile froze on her face. Her eyes widened in recognition, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "Jack," she finally whispered, the name falling from her lips like a long-held secret. "Eliza," he replied, his voice equally soft. Lily looked between them, confusion clear on her face. "You know each other?" Jack cleared his throat. We knew each other in college." "A long time ago," Eliza added quickly, composing herself. She extended her hand formally. "It's Elizabeth now, actually. Elizabeth Winters. It's good to see you again, Jack." Her hand was warm in his, the brief contact sending electricity up his arm. This close, he could see the subtle changes 15 years had brought, fine lines around her eyes that appeared when she smiled, a confidence in her posture that the younger Eliza had only pretended to have. "You too," he managed. "I had no idea you were teaching here." "It's just part-time," she explained. Ms. Peterson is the CEO of Horizon Technologies. Lily interrupted excitedly. She showed us pictures of her company and everything. They make those smart home systems that are in all the commercials. Jack felt the floor shift beneath him. Horizon Technologies was a household name, a billion-dollar company that had revolutionized home automation. And Elizabeth, was its founder and CEO. That's impressive, he said inadequately. Elizabeth smiled, a hint of the old Eliza peeking through her polished exterior. It keeps me busy. But I started teaching science here last year. 1 day a week. It helps me remember what's important. A parent approached, asking for Elizabeth's attention. She excused herself with a promise to speak with them properly during their scheduled conference time. As she walked away, Jack felt dizzy with questions. The last he'd heard, Eliza had left school suddenly during their senior year, transferring to another university without explanation. Their relationship, what he'd thought was love, had ended with a brief phone call and years of unanswered questions. "Dad, are you sure you're okay?" Lily asked, studying his face with concern. Jack forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just surprised to see an old friend." "Was she your girlfriend?" Lily asked with the directness only children can manage. Jack hesitated. "It was complicated, sweetheart." "That means yes," Lily said with certainty. "She's really nice, Dad. And pretty." "Let's go look at your project," Jack said, desperate to change the subject. The next hour passed in a blur as they moved through the classroom, looking at displays and chatting with other parents. Jack found himself constantly aware of Elizabeth's presence, stealing glances when he thought she wouldn't notice. Once or twice, he caught her watching him too, quickly looking away when their eyes met. Finally, their scheduled conference time arrived. Jack sent Lily to look at her friend's project while he sat down at Elizabeth's desk. So, Elizabeth began professionally, opening a folder with Lily's name on it. Lily is an exceptional student. Her science aptitude is particularly strong, and her creativity in problem-solving is remarkable. Jack nodded, trying to focus on his daughter rather than the woman sitting across from him. "She loves your class. It's all she talks about." Elizabeth's professional demeanor softened slightly. "She's a wonderful girl, Jack. You've done an amazing job with her." "Thank you," he said quietly. "It hasn't always been easy, but she makes it worth it." Elizabeth hesitated, then closed the folder. "I heard about Emma. I'm so sorry." The mention of his late wife caught Jack off guard. "How did you?" Lily mentioned it during a class discussion about families. She said her mom was watching over her from heaven. Elizabeth's eyes were gentle. "I didn't make the connection until I saw you tonight." Jack nodded, the familiar ache in his chest whenever Emma was mentioned. "Cancer. 4 years ago. Lily was only 7. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been. For both of you." "We take it 1 day at a time," Jack said simply. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions. "Elizabeth Winters," Jack finally said, shaking his head slightly. "CEO of Horizon Technologies. I've seen you on the cover of business magazines." She smiled, a hint of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "Not exactly where I thought I'd end up when we were planning to open that little design studio together." The reference to their shared dreams caught him by surprise. "You remember that?" "Of course I do." Her voice softened. "I remember everything, Jack." The classroom door opened as another parent entered, reminding them both of where they were. Elizabeth straightened, returning to her teacher persona. "We should probably stick to discussing Lily's progress." Jack nodded, disappointed but understanding. "Of course." They spent the next 10 minutes reviewing Lily's work and discussing her potential. As their time came to an end, Jack stood to leave. It was good seeing you, Elizabeth. She looked up at him, something unreadable in her expression. You too, Jack. He turned to go, but her voice stopped him. Jack? Would you like to get coffee sometime? To catch up properly? His heart raced as he turned back. I'd like that. She scribbled something on a notepad and handed it to him. My personal number. Call me when you're free. Their fingers brushed as he took the paper, and for a moment, they were 21 again, full of possibilities. I will, he promised. 3 days later, Jack sat in the same coffee shop where he'd first met Eliza 15 years earlier. The place had changed owners twice since then, but the worn leather armchairs and the scent of freshly ground coffee remained the same. The bell above the door jingled, and Elizabeth walked in. Gone was the formal blouse and slacks from parent-teacher night, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater that reminded him more of the Eliza he'd known in college. You remembered, she said, glancing around the cafe as she sat across from him. Hard to forget, he replied. This is where you spilled hot chocolate all over my economics textbook. She laughed, the sound warming him from the inside. And then insisted on buying you coffee every day for a week to make up for it. Best week of that semester, he said softly. Their eyes met, and the years between them seemed to compress and expand simultaneously. Jack, she began, her fingers fidgeting with a napkin. I owe you an explanation. He'd waited 15 years for this moment, but now that it was here, Jack wasn't sure he was ready. You don't have to. I do, she insisted. What I did, leaving without a real explanation, it wasn't fair to you. Jack nodded, waiting. Elizabeth took a deep breath. My father was diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's that spring. It was progressing quickly, and my mother couldn't handle it alone. When he started forgetting who we were, I had to go home. You could have told me, Jack said quietly. I would have understood. I know. But you had just been accepted to that design program in New York, the one you dreamed about. If I'd told you, you would have given it up to come with me. She wasn't wrong. He would have followed her anywhere. I transferred to a school near home to help care for my father, she continued. The technology program there was focused on assistive devices. I started developing smart home systems that could help people like my dad, reminders for medication, automatic shut-offs for appliances, voice controls for when he couldn't remember how things worked. Understanding dawned on Jack. That's how Horizon started. Elizabeth nodded. What began as a project to help my father turned into something bigger than I ever imagined. By the time he passed away 3 years later, we had our first investors. I'm sorry about your father, Jack said sincerely. Thank you. She paused, looking down at her coffee. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing by letting you go. That you'd have a better life without being tied to someone with so many family obligations. But I've regretted it every day since. Jack absorbed her words, feeling the weight of 15 years of misunderstanding lifting from his shoulders. What about now? Teaching middle school science seems like an unusual hobby for a CEO. Elizabeth smiled. After my father died, I promised myself that when I achieved success, I'd find a way to give back. Teaching keeps me grounded. Reminds me why I started Horizon in the first place, to help people, not just make money. Lily thinks you're amazing, Jack admitted. She's been talking about becoming an engineer because of you. Pride and pleasure lit up Elizabeth's face. She has the mind for it. Her project on sustainable energy was graduate-level thinking. She gets her brains from her mother, Jack said. Emma was brilliant, a pediatric surgeon. Elizabeth's expression softened. Tell me about her. About Emma? The question surprised him. Most people avoided mentioning Emma, unsure how to navigate his grief. But Elizabeth asked directly, with genuine interest. So Jack told her. About meeting Emma 2 years after college, their whirlwind romance, their joy when Lily was born, and the devastating diagnosis that had come when Lily was 6. He spoke of Emma's courage through treatment and how she'd made him promise to keep living fully after she was gone. "She sounds remarkable," Elizabeth said when he finished. "She was." Jack smiled sadly. "She would have liked you. I wish I could have met her." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the afternoon sun casting long shadows through the cafe windows. "And what about you?" Elizabeth asked eventually. "Lily mentioned you're a graphic designer?" Jack nodded. "Freelance. It lets me set my own hours, be there for Lily. Not quite the design studio we planned, but it works for us." "I've seen your work," Elizabeth admitted. "The Riverdale Arts Festival posters? The Children's Hospital murals? They're beautiful, Jack." He stared at her in surprise. "You recognize my style after all these years?" "Some things you don't forget," she said simply. Their conversation flowed easily after that, catching up on 15 years of separate lives. 2 hours passed in what felt like minutes. When Elizabeth finally glanced at her watch, she looked genuinely disappointed. "I have a board meeting I can't miss," she explained, gathering her things. Jack nodded, trying to hide his own disappointment. "Of course." They walked outside together, lingering on the sidewalk. "I'm glad Lily ended up in your class," Jack said finally. "Me too." Elizabeth hesitated, then added, "I'd like to see you again, Jack. If you want to." The hope in her voice matched the feeling expanding in his chest. "I'd like that." She smiled, relief evident in her expression. "Good." As she turned to go, Jack called after her. "Elizabeth?" She looked back. "Why did you start teaching at Westfield? Of all the schools in the city?" A soft smile played at her lips. "I heard from a mutual friend that you and Lily had moved back to the area. I guess part of me hoped I might run into you someday." Before Jack could respond, she was gone, walking toward the sleek car waiting at the curb. He stood watching until she disappeared from view, feeling as though his life had just shifted on its axis. Over the next few months, coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Dinner dates turned into family outings with Lily, who was delighted by the development. Elizabeth fit into their lives as though she'd always been meant to be there. She showed up at Lily's science fair with the same enthusiasm she brought to board meetings. She helped Jack with a major design project when he was on deadline, staying up late to offer feedback just like they'd done in college. She shared stories of her father with Lily, teaching her that memories were precious even when they hurt. Jack found himself falling in love with her all over again, not with the memory of who she had been, but with the woman she had become. Strong, compassionate, brilliant Elizabeth, who ran a billion-dollar company but still made time to grade science projects and bring soup when Lily caught the flu. 6 months after that parent-teacher night, they sat together on Jack's small balcony, watching the sunset while Lily was at a sleepover. "I have something to tell you," Elizabeth said, her expression serious. Jack felt a flicker of anxiety. "What is it?" "I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at Horizon." Of all the things he'd expected her to say, this wasn't one of them. "What? Why?" "I've appointed a new CEO, my COO, Diane. She's been running things alongside me for years anyway." Elizabeth took his hand. "I'm keeping my position as chairwoman of the board, but I want more time for the things that matter." "You're teaching?" Jack asked. "That," she agreed. "And this. Us." She squeezed his hand. "I spent 15 years building a company, Jack. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But these past 6 months with you and Lily have shown me what I've been missing." Jack's heart swelled. "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more certain of anything," she said firmly. "Life is too short to prioritize the wrong things. My father taught me that. Emma taught you that. I think it's time we both listened. Jack pulled her close, overwhelmed by the feeling that his life had come full circle. I love you, Elizabeth Winters. She smiled against his shoulder. I love you too, Jack Sullivan. Always have. 1 year after that fateful parent-teacher night, Jack stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as Elizabeth helped her with a complicated science experiment on the floor. If we adjust the angle here, Elizabeth was saying, the solar panel will capture more energy. Lily nodded.